So we're jumping into Baldur's Gate from the perspective of playing with a party. Previously, we asked the question, what does a solo run look like? Literally, your character against the literal game engine. And in jumping over and asking, what does a party look like? What are some of the ideas behind building a party and running the NPCs? There's a duality to this. First, being a role-playing game, it opens up character interaction, various dialogues. Later in BG2, the romances, it sheds a lot on backstory and making choices. So to immerse yourself in the role-playing game and the perspective, it's worth it to play the different NPCs. Now, some of them you might want to keep with the group throughout the entire storyline. Others at different points you'll pick up depending on the situation. We're going to be exploring it from a very top-level perspective and asking tactically, combat, running encounters, leveling up, what should we be looking for? And like the other vlog tacticas that I've been pushing up to my Baldur's Gate playlist here, there are not going to be any spoilers. We're not going to talk about specific magic items, quest, or plot points. And this is a fine line to navigate. I don't want to give away any spoilers because so much of the game is discovery. If it's your first time through, discovery. If you played 5 or 6 times, discovery. So the first question is looking at the party, and this is true for tabletop D&D, looking at the party is like a special forces team. Everyone is going to be specialized with one specific task, and they're going to level that expertise, literally leveling it and dumping experience points into that expertise. Now, there can be some overlap from time to time, and depending on where you are in the story, that overlap sometimes makes sense. You also have to take into consideration the class of your character, the main hero, the main story point, because that might bring some redundancy. A perfect example, in BG1, you want to have a mage. What kind of mage that is, if it's a mage, a wild mage, a sorcerer, a specialist, that's up for debate, but you definitely want to fill one of those slots. And there's 2 great NPC mages that you can pick up. If your main character is a mage, do you really need them? Well, technically no, because you're going to be putting out all that experience, but you could potentially be missing out on some dialogue options or some other aspects of the game in terms of certain quests. Likewise, if you play a character class, I was going to say a monk, but actually they've added a monk. If you play a character class that is not represented with the NPCs, then you don't have to worry about it because you're not building in any redundancy or taking away from any one area. So a lot really depends on the main character class and saying, do I need a secondary or am I taking away from it? An example, it would be handy to have a second mage, but it's not necessary. You need to have at least one of the mages covered. But in terms of a frontline fighter, barbarian, paladin, berserker, you really want to have 2. You can have more than 2, and that redundancy really builds a lot into the game. I love playing bards, one of my favorite character classes, but if you're playing a bard, you still kind of need to have magic covered, a dedicated mage, simply for not only spell variety, but pure raw spell power and spell focus. So you need to look at what is the focus of the main character and how are we going to build out and recruit. Now, the other reason why you want to diversify your NPC pool is throughout the game, there are various magic items. And in the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons rule set, especially the AD&D rule set compared to, say, the current edition of D&D, although they're very powerful, magic items are key. And in Baldur's Gate, clickies are key. Magic items that you click on this 3 times a day and something happens. You click on this, you put them on your clicky bar, your toolbar. Those are powerful because whatever your character class is, you have the ability of that character class that you're going to utilize, whether it's a magical class or not, natural abilities or not, but also now being able to use those clicks and cast spells, cast abilities, buff yourself, massive. Likewise, potions. Potions are the key. Potions are massive. So the point is, spread throughout the game without giving anything away are various magic items. The majority of those items are geared towards a specific class. This is the duality. If you don't have that class in your party, you're not utilizing that magic item. Okay, you could sell it for gold, buy something else, find something else, but you are potentially missing out on that. Likewise, if there's multiples in the party, if I have 3 or 4 fighters and there's a premium suit of armor, that's only going to one of them. So now you have to decide, if we're just using the example of playing a fighter or combat heavy party, I'm going to have to spread the gear out among those 4, where if it's focused, even if you have 2, if it's focused, both of them can really gear up very, very powerfully. So optimally speaking, you want to have complementary character classes, different character classes, to take advantage of the various magic items in the game and bring those synergies. But backtracking for a moment, just like when we explored the idea of a solo run, anything is possible in the game. The game can be beat with any combination, any character class. Some things are harder than others. Some things are easier than others. Some fights will be harder than others, even if you have intimate knowledge, knowing, look, I've run through the game like 30 times. I know what's in that next room. I know what the monsters are going to do right away. I know how they're going to act. Even knowing that, sometimes with certain character classes and certain builds, it can, and it is very, very challenging.